Hi, I'm Sean, and today I'm going to talk to you about field observations. Field observation, also known as ethnography, is the study of everyday people in their natural environment. It is usually carried out at the beginning of a study. Field observation can be broken down into two subcategories. The first being structured observation, while the other is unstructured observation. Both of these can be carried out using either a participant observer or a non-participant observer. The advantages of field observations are they can reveal characteristics of a group or individuals in the study. They can be very cheap. It is a more personal solution to finding information. It is an easy way to reach conclusions relating to your field. Does not require an area of focus at the start of the observation, and it is a good way of understanding your area of research. Focus groups, questionnaires and surveys are poor tools for learning about behaviour, for they are divorced from actual use. Most behaviour is subconscious, and what people actually do can be quite different from what they think they do. The disadvantages of field observations are that the field observation can be biased and subjective. The participant and observer can become frustrated if they cannot discover the information they require, and the results can become filtered as you can impose their own results on the data. Structured observation. Structured field observation is when a hypothesis has already been established and the observation has a clear point of view and area to be focused on. The advantages of this subcategory is that it can minimize the variation of data based on the perceptions of the acts of the user. It can be completed quite quickly, data is easily collected and analysed, and it reaffirms the hypothesis obtained before the observation. Whereas the disadvantages are that a tunnel vision approach is usually taken, which tends to lead to having subjective and biased results. And also, it omits possible design flaws. Whereas unstructured field observation is a study which postpones any clarification or structure until an example of hypothesis has been observed. The advantages of this subcategory is that when not focusing on a particular area, it helps reduce the bias of the whole study. This method may also bring attention to problems which wouldn't have been foreseen otherwise. The disadvantages to this method is that it is difficult to utilize received information and reach conclusions. It can be a very time-consuming procedure, and it can become frustrating for the participant as they're without parameters to guide them. Participant observation is a form of observation which requires the observer to actually assume the life and interact with the individual or group. The advantages of this method is that the observer gets a clear view of the subject matter without relying on testimonies from possibly biased sources. It also a result is invaluable data and can observe change over a period of time, which you cannot obtain from one-off observations. And finally, assists in the understanding of human behavior and actions. The disadvantages are, it can take a substantial amount of time before the observer is simulated into the life of the individual or group. And secondly, can be subjective and biased, and it lacks inaccurate quantifiable measures. Non-participant observation. In this form of observation, the observer takes an outside view of the group or individual and does not interact, in contrast to the previous form of observation. Advantages. 1. The observer gets the information without having to interact with the participants. This leads to more accurate results as people will behave irregularly when others enter their group. Results can be instantaneous and results are easier to analyze. The disadvantages are there is less control over the observation. It is harder to find or back up hypothesis without influencing your participants. And with limited exposure to the environment, it is harder to develop conclusions. Ethics. Primarily, ethics deals with the principles of right and wrong. It is concerned with issues such as morality, goodness, virtue and honour. The idea of choosing justice over injustice. Basically, the age-old question of whether the ends justify the means. The American Anthropological Association have developed a code of ethics. It was approved in June 1998. They are as follows: to avoid harm or wrong, to respect the well-being of humans and non-human primates, to work for the long-term conservation of the archaeological, fossil and historical records, to consult actively with the affected individuals or groups with the goal of establishing a working relationship that can be beneficial to all parties involved. Informed consent is also a vital component to any critical ethnography. There are many different ways of ensuring that the participants have all the relevant data regarding the experience. They can engage in a dialogue with the participants, explaining the nature of the study, their specific participation, its potential benefits, and finally its risks. Answer all, if any, questions at any stage of the study that arise, and demonstrate to each individual or group all, if any, equipment or instruments being utilized for the study. Inform each of the participants what data is being collected, and the information will be used for. This is unless informing the participants will interfere with gathering of results. Obtain written consent from each participant involved. In relation to ethnographical studies, there are several methods to reduce the likelihood of potential negative ethical issues. Decipher at the beginning what social, personal and political implications the publication of the results would have on the participants. Identify a method of presenting the data in which understanding of the results is prioritized and any sensational aspects limited. And finally, balance the importance of the data against the harm which it could cause to the study population. How to approach a field observation. Method 1. Structured field observation using a non-participant method. First, set up a framework. For example, a decide framework. Determine the overall goals that the evaluation addresses. Set up goals or hypotheses for the observation that will help you focus on a particular area. For example, if doing an observation on people using text messaging, the observer might want to focus on how the person types the message, or set up a hypothesis that using predictive texting is faster than texting letter by letter. This helps the observer take on more information that is relevant to them, rather than using time noting information that is not useful to them. 2. Explore the questions to be answered. For example, you want to measure the usability of the predictive texting on a phone. Therefore, you need to set up questions on the effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction of the predictive texting. For example, was the participant able to use the predictive texting? How long did it take the participant to type a message? Did the participant show signs of anger or frustration while using the predictive texting? Question 1. Is the participant able to use predictive text? Question 2. How long does it take the participant to type a word using predictive text? Question 3. Did the participant show signs of anger or frustration while using the predictive texting?